there's my little photo that I am scrapbooking today. I am doing a couple of different things that I don't normally do. So stick with me and learn from my mistakes. Here's mistake number 1. When you use your CRICUT, when it asks you, are you using the same cardstock you always do? Change it when you're using a heavier cardstock. Then you don't have to do this. But it was a really simple shape, so it wasn't too bad. So I ended up using, the cardstock that I'm using here is my Poppy Crafts 3, I think it's 300 pound or something weight. It's quite heavy and it holds its shape, which is really good for when you're cutting things like this and you want to create dimension. It's fantastic. But your CRICUT does not have a mind of its own. It cannot automatically detect when you've put a different thickness of cardstock in there to cut. You do actually have to manually program that into CRICUT Design Space when it asks you, just in case you were curious. Hey, there you go, CRICUT. There's the next fandangle thing you can put in your next machine. Okay, so you saw me shaking that it's a KAISERCRAFT. It's just florals is all I can tell you. I don't know the name of this particular stencil, but I sprayed it with my spray adhesive, and it has come to my attention from Shirley, and I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning, that I have possibly misled you. Possibly. So you're learning as well as I'm learning. I didn't realize that I probably should have explained this a little bit more. When you use the Crafter's Choice spray adhesive for my Aussie people, I get mine from Spotlight. It's a very light adhesive. It's a temporary adhesive. You can't glue your layouts down with it or anything like that, but it gives you a temporary fixative to the back of, for example, your stencils. So you can pop them onto your project and it kind of works like a third hand, and it's great. The one thing that I probably should have had a little bit of a disclaimer, when you're using it, check on another piece of cardstock. So for example, this cardstock that I'm using is very heavy, very thick, so I'm having no issues peeling it off. However, the other day I did have an issue when I put it down, and I think the issue that I had was I had maybe been a bit too heavy-handed with the spray, so it had a bit more grit to it, and of course my first time using it sort of thing, or one of my first times sort of still playing with it, and I pressed it down pretty hard. So there's Jennifer's hand again. There's her cameo. She goes back to school next week, don't worry. So so when you do use it, please be careful that when you put it down, you don't damage your cardstock when you peel it back up. And when you do get it to release from your base cardstock, just take it very gentle, just in case you have put a little bit more fixative on it than you realize. And the fixative actually stays on the back of your stencil, and you can reuse it several times over. I stack all my stencils in a binder folder, and I have no issues with them. They sort of tack together and you just let them peel them apart. It's not a problem. But it's really good and useful for things like this, where see how normally I would have my distress inks in my little tray there. That tray I made up myself, and it's actually got the silicone mat. I bought several of them and I cut them down. So the silicone mat, that blue bit that's inside it, there's one of them underneath it as well, and it actually grips. So it grips my ink pad and it grips the desk, so I can hold something and I can literally ink my brushes with one hand. So it's so super duper, it is the best. I make these trays, and I did make a video and it is there in case you wanted to give it a go yourself, because trust me, it is so handy and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. I would rather spend my money on supplies for my scrapbooking rather than storage pieces. So all I'm doing here is I'm just going around the border of my craft cardstock. Now, I'm not a huge fan of craft cardstock. I'll be honest with you. I don't use it very often. I did buy myself some and I thought, you know what? You will have a use for it one day. And this morning when I got up, I thought to myself, I really would like to start a new series. And I want to be using things that are a part of my collection. Some people call them a stash. I don't call it a stash. It's my collection. I have collected lots of things over a very long time. And some things I don't use anywhere near as much as I probably should. So I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to create a series where I do things differently, or I pull things out that I haven't used in a while. Now, I don't normally clean the ink out of my brushes like that, but because I was crossing them over and I didn't want any residual sort of orange left on my yellow brush, just purely because next time I go to use yellow, I want it to be yellow. So here's my cute little photo of my little munchkin, and this was right back, way back when she was learning to eat. And we had spaghetti and meatballs this night, and it was summertime, so we went out in the front yard and we put a blanket down, gave her her spoon, and because she was Little Miss Independent then, as she is now, and we just let it go for broke. Not a problem. And she made one heck of a mess, but she loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I thought I would try and create my own bowl of spaghetti and meatballs, which is very much, believe it or not, I was at a, what was it? I think I saw it was either at Keith Urban, one of Keith Urban's concerts, or no, it was a Keith Urban, it was a doco that I watched of his, and he made the comment, and he was referring to choreography in his videos, and he said, you know, say truck, see truck, that sort of term, and I really understood what he meant when he said that, being that I'm a creative person. I'm not the sort of scrapbooker that I don't say truck, see truck. I don't see a bowl of spaghetti, so create a bowl of spaghetti. That's not normally what I do. So I thought I would push myself out of my comfort zone and I would give it a crack, because that's why I have this channel, because I want you guys to try things that maybe you've never tried before. Maybe you don't use stencils very often. Maybe you're like me and you don't use craft paper very often. You may not use your stencils like this. What I want my channel to be, I want it to be a safe place for everybody to take away from it whatever they need in that moment. Whether that sounds very deep, doesn't it? I'm really not getting too deep and heavy here, but I just wanted to take the opportunity, considering this video is very self-explanatory, I wanted to take the opportunity to explain what my endeavor is with this channel, okay? To explain very briefly, I'm a mum of 3. My husband works very hard, and I'm very lucky, incredibly lucky. And I'm able to, my family have supported me to the point that they've said, you know what, if that's what you want to do, do it. And that's what our family's like. We support our little family. We support each other in whatever we're doing. If we're going to commit to it, we commit to it 100%. And that's what I do with my channel. I said to my family, if you guys can give me 12 months, 1 full year, all of 2022, give me that whole year to see what I can do with my channel. See if people resonate with either my Aussie way of doing things, or maybe my chatty style, maybe the way I scrapbook might be completely different to them. I know personally, I watch people scrapbook all the time, and some people, I don't scrap anything like them, but I find myself drawn to their channel for different reasons, and they give me inspiration, and that's what I want my channel to be for you. It may not be that you want to create a bowl of, there's my meatballs. Did you see my meatballs? I did take photos, as you just saw then. I am popping those up on the Facebook group so you can see the texture that I created simply with my inks, a couple of different shades, and a bit of torn paper. And it's literally created little meatballs. It looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. I know they look like they get lost there, but trust the process, guys. It does work. It does come together. I needed a lot more spaghetti. That is what I needed. The spaghetti is, in fact, Kmart brand, so ANKO, and it's called Twist Cotton Cord. And it was like $2, maybe $3. No, it wasn't even that. And I bought it thinking to myself, I will use that one day. I don't know what I'm going to use that on, but I'm going to use it on something. And when I saw this morning, I thought, you know what? That's spaghetti. That, to me, looks like thick spaghetti. So I decided on doing this. Now, my cut file for my bowl and my spoon, I simply put into the search engine in my CRICUT design space, bowl and spoon. That's all I put in. And I grabbed a couple that I like. Now, I will be honest with you, I do have the CRICUT subscription, so I do pay that every month. It's not very much, and honestly, it's great. Now, what you can see me doing here now is I have put down a piece of press and seal, Glad press and seal. It is the best stuff. Wait until you see how easy it is for me to clean up all this paint. What I'm using is, because I'm trying to create lots of texture and I'm trying to make the sauce, basically. So I ended up, I'm applying it with the MARTE. They're called Paint and Sculpt. They've got like a silicone tip on the end of a paintbrush, and you can just sort of scoop up and poke and push your mediums around. I'm using the MARTE gouache, the red gouache, and a bit of orange gouache mixed in with a little bit of modeling paste, and that's how I've made my sauce. And it looks so real. It really does look real. Now, I did wet it down a little bit just so I can add a bit of sort of runny sauce looking stuff. It does look like spaghetti sauce. I was a little bit concerned that it might look like blood on meatballs, but it doesn't. It genuinely looks like sauce. Now, I did realize at this point that I had literally painted all my meatballs, all my spaghetti, and you sort of lost the spaghetti effect. So I figured I'd add a little bit more on top. Why not? I mean, it's got, let's be honest, when it goes into my photo album, it's going to squash down a little bit. So that's totally fine. It gives the effect that I'm after, and I absolutely love how it turns out. It's so cool. I really do like it. And I'm quite chuffed with myself because, as I said, I'm not a C-truck person. That's just not me. So I absolutely love how this is working out. Now I am adding my white border. Now this border is just an offcut. I've already cut something out of the center of it from a video yesterday. So now that becomes my border. That's what I do. I don't waste them. So this one here, I won't waste that one either. I will use the outside edge of that for a border on another page. So I tried not to waste too much where possible. So now I'm just adding my title together. I would love to say though, thank you so much. I am so honored that you guys have decided to subscribe to my channel. If you're just watching my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really, really love to have you as a subscriber. I do post at least 6 videos a week. Occasionally I will pop an extra one on there and you'll get one on Sunday. I post Monday through Saturday, Australian. I'm in Queensland, Australia, so on the eastern side of Australia. So when summertime, I'm just thinking, when is that? I know we have daylight savings here in Australia, so the eastern, a couple of the southern states and the western states, they all change their clocks forward an hour, I think it is. So that adjusts things a little bit, but for the most part, I usually post my videos at 5 o'clock in the morning, and 5 o'clock in the morning my time, unless I've had a hiccup like I had on Monday. It was, yeah, sometimes you can't help it and it's frustrating, but technology, what would we do without it? But when it fails big time. So, okay, so I've gone ahead, I've cut out my title on my CRICUT, and the way it's looking at the moment, it's still, I'm really happy with how it's turning out, trusting the process. Now I'm going through with my UNI-BALL SIGNO BROARD pen. It's a white pigment ink, and what I didn't anticipate, it actually drew up some of that ink. So even though it's a white pigment ink, and I put it on top of the distress oxides, which have a pigment quality to them, so the white dots aren't as bright white as they were, but I think it still looks good. It breaks up the border, and to be quite honest with you, I'm not noticing, once I go on and do these extra little bits and pieces, I really don't notice the craft cardstock. I'm not noticing it as much. So now I did something on purpose. This is not a mistake. This is on purpose. Something that I did a few weeks ago, and I realized with glossy accents, so if you put that over the top of distress oxides, it will sort of make if you haven't let it sit for too long, it bleeds into the glossy accents a little bit, not a lot, but it sort of blurs it a little bit. Now that is exactly what I wanted it to do in this case. It's actually not a mistake. It's actually because I had this resin spoon and it had flowers in it, and over time it sort of looked like the flowers had run a little bit. It was really bizarre. And so I knew that it would do that. So that's what I actually did. So when you look at the photos over on Facebook, if you jump on my Facebook group, you will notice that I actually did that on purpose, and it did exactly what I expected it to do. So I am adding my journaling here purely because I think the page just wouldn't look right if I didn't add that white bit of journaling on there for you guys to get the full experience of that 12 by 12 layout. So here it all is, all there for you guys, and there's your close-up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will chat to you soon. Bye for now.